Prince William did not raise his voice. He did not blame the palace, condemn his father, or explain the private pain hidden behind his decision. He simply stood before a small gathering, tightened his hand around the prepared statement, and delivered 7 words that stunned the monarchy. "We are moving out of Windsor." Catherine remained beside him, visibly composed but deeply shaken, as the future king confirmed that their family's life inside the royal stronghold was coming to an end. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. William let the silence settle before he continued. He confirmed that Catherine, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis would leave Adelaide Cottage and make Anmer Hall in Norfolk their primary family residence. Adelaide Cottage is the royal home within the Windsor estate, where the couple had tried to give stowaways their children privacy, near school, and family support. Anmer Hall, by contrast, is their private country house in Norfolk, offering distance from palace operations and greater control over daily life. Catherine lowered her eyes as the prince placed the prepared statement on the table. She reached for his hand without speaking, and that gesture revealed what the chosen words could not. This was not an exciting move or a simple change of address. It was a family retreat from a place they had trusted. William insisted that his duties in Windsor and London would continue, but he made one point clear: the family would no longer live permanently inside the estate. Charles received the announcement alone in a sitting room. The king read the final sentence twice, set the paper down, and remained silent. He understood that his eldest son was not merely taking Catherine and the children to Norfolk. William was removing them from the daily orbit of the crown, weakening the closeness Charles Quelnz had hoped to preserve between the sovereign and the next generation. Then came the line that changed everything. William refused to describe the departure as temporary, declaring that his family needed a home where trust does not need to be negotiated. A senior aide compared the announcement with an earlier draft and discovered that one paragraph had been removed. That missing passage contained the explanation everyone feared: the exact moment Windsor stopped feeling safe. Palace officials searched for the deleted wording. The answer was not inside the statement. It was locked inside a security file, a record few people could see. Before that file could emerge, however, the monarchy had to confront the human cost of William's decision, and the 5 lives changed by one devastating sentence. To the public, Windsor represented continuity, privilege, and royal protection. To William and Catherine, it had once promised something far more precious: a stable childhood for their children. Now that promise had collapsed. Behind the announcement stood a father, terrified of repeating the wounds of his own upbringing, a mother fighting to preserve normality, and 3 young lives being removed from the only royal home they had begun to understand as truly theirs. William had chosen Windsor because it seemed to offer balance. George, Charlotte, and Louis could remain close to their school, while Catherine could depend on her parents and the small circle she trusted most. Adelaide Cottage had become more than a royal residence, a home provided within the Windsor estate for members of the family. The couple had tried to keep it separate from formal palace life, building ordinary routines around homework, shared meals, and quiet evenings, away from official pressure. Catherine protected those routines fiercely. She knew how easily palace schedules could swallow private life, and she refused to let every family moment become part of royal business. She wanted the children to remember laughter at the table, not whispered conversations outside closed doors. Yet after William's announcement, even those familiar routines felt uncertain. The move was no longer a distant possibility. It was happening, and the children could feel the weight of it. George finally asked the question everyone had avoided. He looked at his father and asked whether leaving Windsor meant something bad had happened. William paused. The prince could have offered a comforting excuse, but he chose something closer to the truth. He told his son that protecting a family sometimes meant walking away before fear became normal. George listened carefully. His silence showed that he understood more than William had hoped. Charlotte reacted differently. She became upset at the thought of leaving familiar rooms, school routes, and the place she had started calling home. Catherine sat beside her and held her close, promising that home was not a building, an estate, or a royal address. Home was the family, staying together. The princess repeated those words gently, but her controlled voice carried a tension she could not completely hide. Then Louis mentioned something unexpected. He remembered seeing an unfamiliar member of staff near the cottage on an evening when no visitor had been expected. Catherine's expression changed at once. She asked him what the person had been carrying, then quickly softened her tone when she realized the children were watching her. William understood that reaction immediately. The decision to leave had not begun with a public statement or a sudden argument. It had hardened weeks earlier. During one specific evening, the royal household had tried desperately to contain. That evening would later be remembered as the point when Windsor stopped feeling like a sanctuary and began to feel like a place from which William had to rescue his family. The final decision did not begin in a council chamber or during an argument over royal rank. It began at Adelaide Cottage, shortly after Catherine returned from a private medical tunnel. Children were upstairs. William was away at an engagement. Then, an unapproved palace official appeared inside the protected residential perimeter, carrying a folder containing the family's private weekly schedule. Catherine looked at the document, recognized information that should never have left their household, and understood that a line had been crossed. Catherine knew the man should not have been there. Protected residential perimeter, the restricted area surrounding the family's most private home, was controlled separately from ordinary palace offices. William had insisted on that separation because George, Charlotte, and Louis needed lives that were not constantly exposed to royal administration. Only a small circle knew the children's school timings, Catherine's medical appointments, or the hours when she might be alone inside the cottage. The official remained calm. He said another royal household had instructed him to verify future access arrangements. As though the visit were routine, Catherine asked who had approved his entry, but he offered no clear name. Instead, he opened the folder and pointed toward a copied schedule. That was when her unease became fear. Catherine saw George's school collection time written beside the name of his driver. Beneath it sat details of her private appointment, including when she had left and when she was expected to return. She closed the folder immediately. The princess ordered the official to leave, then contacted her security team and instructed them to preserve every access record from that afternoon. William returned hours later and found Catherine waiting with the copied pages. The prince did not speak at first. He read each line, circled 2 confidential entries with a pen, and asked the question no one inside the household could answer. How had information restricted to their family reached another royal office? Catherine told him exactly what the official had said, and her husband understood that the visit had not been accidental. The first internal check produced an answer more dangerous than silence. The access instruction had originated through Queen Camilla's household, meaning the administrative staff working directly for her royal office. No record proved that Camilla had personally approved the request. Someone within her operation had asked for information that should never have been shared. William refused to let the incident disappear into palace language. He demanded a private meeting with Charles and warned that this could not be dismissed as confusion between offices. Catherine supported him because both now understood the deeper threat. Someone had carried their children's movements into a system they no longer trusted. Next morning, father and son entered a room without aides, but the conversation intended to preserve royal unity instead exposed how little trust remained between them. William entered the king's private library, carrying the copied schedule in one hand and the unauthorized access order in the other. Charles was already waiting. No private secretaries stood nearby. No courtiers were present to soften the language or reinterpret what followed. The prince placed both documents on the desk and asked his father a direct question. Who had given another household permission to reach into the private lives of Catherine and the question? Charles studied the pages before answering. The king called the incident an administrative failure caused by overlapping security responsibilities, meaning that separate royal offices had become confused about who could request access and information. He insisted there had been no deliberate attempt to threaten the family. William did not accept that explanation. The folder contained Catherine's private medical appointment, George's school collection time, and details about when the cottage would be quiet. None of that was required for ordinary protection. William pushed the schedule across the desk. He told his father that Catherine had been made to feel watched inside her own home, and that his children's routines had been passed between offices as though they were palace property. The future king's anger was controlled, but every word carried years of frustration. His family's privacy, he said, had repeatedly been treated as something that could be negotiated whenever another household wanted information. Charles rose from his chair. He warned that leaving Windsor would punish the entire institution for one official's mistake. The institution, the network of royal households, staff, traditions, and duties supporting the crown, depended on cooperation between the sovereign and his heir. William answered without hesitation. If that system expected his family to remain where they no longer felt protected, then the system had already failed the people closest to it. William then disclosed something his father had not expected. Through a written account, prepared by his security staff, the prince confirmed that 2 earlier attempts to obtain information about the children had been quietly blocked. One request concerned school movements. Another sought details about a private family weekend. His team had treated both as mistakes. After the visit to Adelaide Cottage, he no longer believed that explanation. Charles went still. The king admitted that concerns had reached him before, but he believed senior officials had resolved them. William stared at his father, stunned not only by the admission, but by what it meant. Charles had known that boundaries were being tested, yet he had never personally warned his son. The silence became unbearable. Charles finally asked what William intended to do. The prince set down his pen and said advisors were already examining whether Catherine and the children could leave Windsor immediately. That even William could not relocate the future of the monarchy through anger alone, because the residences, security arrangements, and authority surrounding Windsor belonged to a much larger contest for control. Leaving an ordinary home requires boxes, keys, and a moving date. Leaving a royal residence involves constitutional expectations, security commands, state permissions, public funding, and the authority of the sovereign himself. William may have been the heir. Windsor remained under structures ultimately shaped by the king. For the first time, the prince's role as a protective father collided directly with the effective machinery he was destined to inherit, and every person around him understood that control of this residence now meant control of the family. William's choice appeared simple, only from the outside. Adelaide Cottage belonged to the Windsor estate, the group of royal properties managed under the authority of the crown, while Anmer Hall was the private country residence he shared with Catherine on the Sandringham estate. Moving to Norfolk would give the couple greater control over their home, their staff, and the children's daily lives. Yet it would also complicate school arrangements, official travel, police protection, and the prince's growing workload as heir. Charles received the relocation memorandum late that afternoon. The document, the formal written plan explaining the move, its timing, and its security needs, made clear that William was not asking for permission to feel safe. He was presenting a decision. The king removed his glasses and pressed his fingers against his eyes, knowing that resistance could turn strain into a lasting rupture. Charles wanted the family close, but forcing them to remain could drive his son further away. Camilla entered after reading a copy prepared for her household. She told Charles that she felt unfairly blamed for an official's actions, and warned that accepting every demand would make the palace believe she had admitted responsibility. The queen consort feared humiliation, but the king understood that defending her office too could appear more important than protecting his grandchildren. Camilla wanted her name cleared. Charles wanted the crisis contained. Neither goal could be achieved without confronting William's anger. A constitutional advisor delivered the decisive answer during a recorded palace consultation. The specialist explained that William did not need his father's emotional approval to make Anmer Hall the family's primary home. Royal protection arrangements, the police teams, secure routes, and procedures guarding senior family members still required cooperation. But Charles could not simply order his adult son to remain at Windsor. Anne made the danger even clearer during a private conversation with her brother. Princess Anne warned Charles that delaying the transfer through protocol would transform a painful family dispute into a public contest between sovereign and heir. She told the king that authority used without trust quickly became weakness. Charles finally understood the choice before him. He could defend palace control and risk losing William's confidence, or he could remove the final obstacle and allow the family to leave. The king signed the security transfer, but the movement of one pen across one page sent consequences through Windsor faster than anyone had anticipated. The authorization was signed shortly after sunset. By morning, discreet vehicles had begun arriving near Adelaide Cottage. Security teams were reviewing routes to Norfolk, and staff members were being told which duties would end. Windsor had not merely heard William's announcement anymore. It could see the departure taking shape. Every packed case, cancelled briefing, and reassigned officer confirmed that the prince had crossed from warning into action, and that no late palace intervention would persuade him to remain. William ordered the move to happen in stages. He wanted George, Charlotte, and Louis protected from sudden disruption, so their personal belongings would travel separately from official papers and security equipment. Prince also decided to keep an office at Windsor and return for major duties. Anmer Hall would now become the center of family life. That distinction mattered. He was not abandoning service. He was drawing a permanent line between public responsibility and private safety. Catherine carried that decision into the children's sitting room. She held a framed family photograph for several seconds, remembering the ordinary evenings they had fought to preserve there. Then she placed it carefully inside the final box. The princess could have left something behind as a sign of return, but she did not. Her choice revealed what palace statements avoided saying. The family was leaving emotionally as well as physically. Charles watched the first removal vehicle pass through the estate from an upstairs window. King did not call an aide. He did not send a final message or ask security to delay the departure. He simply remained where he was, knowing that the authority he had used to approve the transfer could not repair the trust already lost. For Charles, the silence carried its own punishment. Consequences spread quickly. Several staff members were removed from duties involving the Wales household, while an internal inquiry began. An internal inquiry is a confidential investigation conducted by palace officials to establish who acted, what information was shared, and whether royal rules were broken. Access records, copied schedules, and written instructions were examined one by one. Camilla received the most painful finding privately. A senior official from her household had approved the access request without clearly stating why the family's schedule was needed. The Queen Consort read the documented account twice before admitting to Charles that William's suspicions had not been imagined. She felt betrayed by her own staff, yet she also understood why the prince had refused to accept another quiet apology. William now possessed the proof he had demanded. Still, proof could justify the move without healing the wound between father and son. That would require something no memorandum could arrange: a conversation without officials, titles, or prepared defenses. Before the final night at Windsor, Charles traveled to Adelaide Cottage, alone, not as sovereign, but as a father, facing the son he had failed to reassure. There were no officials waiting outside the room, and no prepared statements resting between them. Charles arrived after the children had gone upstairs, carrying neither a red box nor the authority of a formal audience. William opened the door himself. For several moments, father and son simply stood facing one another inside a half-packed home. The confrontation had passed. What remained was more difficult. An aging king, afraid of losing his heir, and a future monarch, determined not to lose his family to the same system. Charles spoke first. He admitted that he had treated the breach as a procedural failure rather than a violation of the Podit family home. A red box is the locked case used to carry the monarch's official papers, but the king had deliberately brought none with him. He wanted William to understand that this was not royal business. It was a father asking his son to believe that regret could still matter after the damage had been done. William listened without interrupting. The prince explained that leaving Windsor was not an attempt to abandon duty, punish Camilla, or humiliate his father. He would continue serving the crown, attending engagements, and preparing for the responsibilities ahead. He would not ask Catherine or the children to live inside a system that had made their private lives feel available to anyone with the right office, title, or excuse. Charles finally confessed what had hurt him most. Watching the removal vehicles pass through Windsor had felt like seeing history repeat itself through another generation. King remembered how distance, resentment, and unspoken pain had divided his own family. Now he feared that William's departure marked the beginning of the same pattern, with another father and son slowly becoming strangers, while the monarchy watched in silence. William answered with painful calm. History would repeat itself, he said, only if they continued asking children to absorb instability for the sake of appearances. George, Charlotte, and Louis could not become symbols before they were allowed to feel safe as children. The future king made clear that protecting them was not rebellion, it was the responsibility he wished someone had understood more clearly during his own childhood. Charles then disclosed the outcome of the investigation through a documented palace account. He had accepted the resignation of the official who authorized the access request and ordered permanent restrictions between household operations and the children's private information. King also apologized directly, without blaming confusion, staff, or palace custom. William accepted the apology, and he told his father that the move would proceed. Forgiveness, he explained, could preserve their relationship without reversing the decision that protected his family. Charles understood. Father and son left the conversation changed, but not broken. Just as the country awoke to front pages declaring that Windsor had lost the future king's household. Their private understanding prevented a royal fracture. But outside the estate walls, William's decision had already become a national judgment on the monarchy itself. By sunrise, the announcement was no longer a private royal sorrow. It dominated broadcasts, newspaper stands, phone screens, and conversations far beyond palace gates. Some saw a devoted father choosing his children over tradition. Others saw the future king retreating from the symbolic heart of the monarchy. Yet one image came to define the entire moment: a dark removal vehicle passing beneath Windsor's stone arch, while a small crowd stood in complete silence beside the road. National broadcasters treated the move as the greatest change to William and Catherine's family life since they created their household at Windsor. A royal household is the team of staff, advisors, and security officers, supporting a senior member of the family. The couple had once chosen the estate to balance public service with school routines and family support. Their departure therefore carried a darker message. The home designed to protect that balance had become the place from which they now needed distance. Commentators divided almost immediately. Some warned that the heir leaving Windsor exposed instability close to the crown. Others argued that William was showing a modern form of leadership by refusing to sacrifice his children's safety for palace expectations. The prince would continue working from Windsor when required, but he would no longer allow official convenience to dictate where Catherine, George, Charlotte, and Louis built their private lives. Supporters gathered outside Windsor Guildhall, the historic civic building near the castle where public events and ceremonies are held. They carried flowers and handwritten cards addressed to Catherine and the children, rather than slogans attacking the king or Camilla. The quietness mattered. The crowd was not demanding a royal war. It was expressing sympathy for a mother and 3 children, leaving a home that had failed to feel secure. One elderly woman captured the mood during a live television interview. She looked toward the estate and said, "A palace is not a home when a mother no longer feels safe there." The broadcaster replayed her words throughout the day, and the sentence spread across radio discussions, news reports, and public conversations. A newspaper then published the defining front page. Beneath an image of the removal vehicle stood 4 words: "The heir walks away." Yet the accompanying editorial offered a different verdict. William had not rejected his future, it argued. He had acted to preserve the family expected to carry that future forward. Palace communications finally confirmed that Charles supported the new arrangements. The formal statement, the official message issued on behalf of the monarch, ended speculation. That father and son had entered a complete estrangement. The king had accepted the departure, even if he could not erase its pain. Public conflict began to settle, but one judgment remained. The family's arrival in Norfolk would decide whether this was exile or renewal. When the gates of Anmer Hall closed behind them, William's tragic announcement finally acquired its true meaning, not a retreat from destiny, but a decision about how that destiny would be lived. The final vehicle reached Anmer Hall beneath a pale Norfolk sky. William stepped out first, then turned, as Catherine and the children followed. There was no ceremony, no palace statement, and no attempt to make the arrival appear historic. Yet the meaning was unmistakable. The future king had removed his family from Windsor, not because he rejected the crown, but because he refused to let royal duty demand their silence, privacy, or sense of safety as its price. William had not abandoned his place within the monarchy. Anmer Hall officially became the family's primary private residence, meaning the home where their personal lives would now be centered, while the prince and Catherine retained their royal offices, public duties, and commitment to service. Windsor would remain part of their working lives. Norfolk, however, would become the place where George, Charlotte, and Louis could breathe, without every routine being shaped by palace demands. Catherine watched the children enter the familiar house, with an ease they had not shown during the final days at Windsor. George quickly returned to the calm habits he understood. Charlotte began arranging the belongings she had feared losing. Louis moved ahead with the careless confidence of a child who no longer sensed tension in every adult conversation. The princess finally allowed herself to feel relief, not because the past had disappeared, but because uncertainty no longer controlled the family. William called Charles later that evening. The prince confirmed that everyone had arrived safely and thanked his father for allowing the Says to proceed without one final struggle. The king understood that those words carried forgiveness, but not surrender. Charles had lost the closeness he once imagined Windsor would provide, yet he had preserved something more important: his relationship with his son. The internal inquiry delivered its final conclusion through a documented palace report. Investigators confirmed that the family's private schedule had circulated through unauthorized household channels. No vague misunderstanding could erase that fact. William's decision had been painful, but the evidence permanently vindicated his refusal to ignore the breach. Charles responded by restructuring access rules across every royal residence. The new controls strictly separated children's private information from wider household operations. Camilla accepted the removal of the officials responsible and acknowledged during a recorded family discussion that the Wales household's boundaries had to remain absolute. The Queen Consort could not undo the damage, but she could no longer deny why William had acted. The announcement had been tragic, because it exposed a failure of trust at the heart of Windsor. The departure, however, was not defeat. William proved that protecting the monarchy did not mean defending every custom, office, or palace decision. It meant protecting the people who would one day carry the institution forward. The doors of Windsor closed behind them, but the monarchy did not break. It changed, because William chose trust, family, and the courage to leave when remaining had become the greater danger. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.